any announcements and
Yep.
so forth?
So tomorrow, just in case nobody's heard, we have a special town meeting at 7 PM in the Hubbardston Center School gym. Articles can be found on the town website, but again, tomorrow, 7 PM, Hubbardston Center School gym, special town meeting. November 24th, which is this coming up Sunday, Thanksgiving Farmers Market will be at the Williamsville Chapel from noon to 3. Again, this Sunday, 12 to 3, Thanksgiving Farmers Market out at the Williamsville Chapel. The deadline to enter the Hubbardston Light Fight is coming up very quickly. It is November 27th, so please make sure you send in your forms. Forms can be found on the town website under special events, Hubbardston Light Fight, or you can always email me. I can give you a form, it's not a big deal. But again, those are due November 27th. On December 1st, we are going to be doing a tree lighting ceremony on the town common at 5 PM. From 5 to 5:30, we'll be caroling with the Greens and the Swinging Singing Seniors. We'll have hot cocoa ready for you, and then we will light all the tree, the menorah, the deer, all the fun stuff, and make the town look super festive. And that is Sunday, December 1st, starting at 5. On December 6th, the Hubbardston Light Fight begins. It goes for the first 3 full weekends, starting Friday, December 6th, from 5 to 9, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. You will be able to find maps right before that first date of the 6th at the town gas station, and also you could probably find them on a link on the website and on Facebook and all the social medias and all the good places. But if you need a paper map, they'll only be at the gas station. And then you will be able to vote for your favorite going through the 23rd, which is the Monday after the first 3 full weekends. Then voting closes and we find out who the winners are. December 7th has a lot of stuff. So the seniors are going to have their Christmas fair, along with the church across the street is going to have their gingerbread fair. I believe both are 9 to 1, and that is on Saturday, December 7th. And then later on December 7th, there will be the free concert at 5:30. The Pioneer Valley Brass Quartet will be playing at the church across the street on the common. Again, that is all happening on December 7th, so December 7th is gonna be kinda busy down here in the center of town. And then December 14th, we have Brunch with Santa, running from 10 to noon at the Hubbardston Center School. We ask for a $20 donation at the door, and we'll have plenty of snacks and crafts, and you can take as many pictures as you like with Santa, and we do a very nice backdrop. There's also the same day, cause the fire department likes to do it the same day as me. I don't know how it happens every year. But they do the Santa on the fire truck, who will come around and come visit with your kids, and there's usually elves too with the fire truck. So that can you can sign up in advance for that, and you'd have to go through the fire department to sign up to have Santa come to your house on a fire truck. But that is also December 14th, and the times range depending on when they fit you in on the schedule. So again, contact the fire department, they will take care of you for that. And that's it for hopefully for a little while. We'll probably have some more stuff, but
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't know what the library's got going on, if Tricia's got anything.
Anyone else have any other announcements or any reports at this time?
This Saturday is the Saturday story time, 10 to 11 at the library. And that is it. December though is going to be
Crazy,
is going
yeah.
to be crazy, so I'll get
December
you all those
usually is.
dates.
Katie, when's the outhouse go on the ice, if we have ice?
Oh, if we have ice.
When's the normal date?
That is the first week in February. So we take the guesses in January. You're talking about frozen assets. We do the guesses in January, you can find them in the businesses in January, which is the worst month of the year. That's why we do it that way. So that way we kind of encourage people to go into the businesses and fill out a form. And then the first available time in February, hopefully there's ice.
Yeah.
There has been so far.
2 weeks later, it falls short.
Hey, whatever, I take it, as long as there's ice.
Alright.
Okay,
Yeah.
moving on, at the request of the town administrator, I'm pushing up an item for the convenience of the gentleman who was at our meeting on Zoom, as well as having the chief here. So we're gonna take item 7B1 right now. That has to do with the recommendation to write off uncollectible ambulance debt due to financial impact. So pass it over to you, Nate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been talking about this for a little while. Every couple of years, there is a request to take this kind of administrative action. When you are running an ambulance service, you can bill so much, but there is going to be certain situations that occur over time that the bill is not going to be paid. So with the request to write off some years-old debt, I brought in Chief Hayes, who put this whole deal together, so I would like to thank him for putting these numbers together. And I would also like to thank Mr. Rick Martin, the CEO and manager of the ambulance billing company, for joining us. We had only recently requested that he joined us, so thank you for making time. I will pass it over to the chief to explain in more detail, and then if you have any questions, we can ask Mr. Martin, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so, we're gonna discuss the ambulance write-offs, and discussions with Nate lead me to believe there's probably some other questions, and billing, ambulance billing is not my expertise. And I asked for a representative, from the company Comstar, which is our billing company, to be here tonight, and we're fortunate we got the owner and CEO of the company. So thank you, Mr. Martin, for being here tonight, to answer any questions, answer any questions I might not be able to, or he'll be much more knowledgeable. But so, just a little background, I think it was in 2020, this whole thing came up again. There was a decade plus of items that weren't written off. So the numbers become glaring. Under Ryan McLean, we set up a policy that there was supposed to be once a year review and write off certain accounts that weren't collected on. Just as that was getting in, Ryan left, David came in, and we didn't have time to do it. Nate was hired. We weren't gonna get into it because we were so busy the first year, and now we're here. Those numbers have grown, so I believe when people look at them, it looks a lot worse than it really is. And so there are some numbers that I put in here to request the write-off. The first one is the $58,307.12. That one is an amount that was left over from the prior numbers from 2020. It's numbers from 2016 that have been archived accounts, and from the rep that I spoke with from Comstar, they're over 7 years old, so you cannot collect on them. You can't take any action but to write them off. So I'm requesting that one to be written off tonight. Then there's another amount, the next one that we picked in another group, that's from a 2 to 5 year old accounts, totaling $87,772.76. You still can take action as a board if you would like to. When it comes to this, you can go to another tier of collections, which is, from my understanding, when we did this 4 or 5 years ago, goes to another company other than Comstar, and that's the harassing phone calls and you haven't paid your bill, blah, blah, blah. At the time when we discussed this 4 years ago, the board didn't want to entertain that. I think there's a lot of things that could go bad with that kind of approach with it. And at the time, the board agreed with it, and we chose not to pursue that avenue. So I think that's where we're at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, could you please speak to this as a practice, if this is something most, if not all, communities are doing, how many communities you're seeing send these types of accounts to a secondary collections, if that is looked at in the industry as negative per se, since we are a municipal government? Just if you have any insight on sort of the process that we're looking into right now. And I know that the town has done this before, but there's been a lot of movement, so I just kind of like to go through the basics before really making any decisions.
Sure. As far as the practice of sending to a collection agent, we just do work with municipal ambulance services, and a little over 100 of them are in Massachusetts. So I just speak for the Massachusetts group. I would say about 60% of them use a collection agent after we're finished. It's a final due diligence step, so sometimes it's required. But there is it's always a local decision based on, how you're feeling about reaching out to your residents with something other than requesting payment. These would be follow-up phone calls. Generally the firms are regulated, so they're doing these things in a respectful but in legal way. But it's certainly more aggressive than, our firm is a customer service organization, so if a patient calls us, we're helping to understand the bill and how to see how much would get maximum return from their insurance and things like that. We're not pushing them. We don't do debt collection. We focus on the customer service end. But so I'd say there are municipalities that do it. Given in general, we have a firm that we have a relationship with, and in that it makes the reporting of this it's all reported within the monthly reporting that we provide to you. You actually have a relationship set up with this firm. It's called First Financial Resources. You folks don't use them, but at some point somebody enrolled the town, or directed filled out the paperwork, and we provided it to FFR. So you have a firm you could send things to, and I'd say about 60 of our clients use them. Never had a complaint. They do a thorough job. But for perspective, we do a very thorough job in terms of the billing work that we do for amounts that aren't paid by insurance, or co-pays and deductibles and those things. So the return rate from this or any third-party collection agent is going to be 3 to 5%. There's no huge windfall. And the other thing that you have to keep in mind is timeliness is really important for them to be effective, even to get that 3 to 5%. Anything that's over a year old is they're gonna have little or no luck at all. So our work is typically done, whether exhausting all the options with insurances, and then whatever balance the patient owes doing the billing sequence. We're generally done after, I say, usually 4 months, 5 max. If we have an insurance carrier that's a little slow responding. So to do this effectively, you really want to be looking at it on a monthly basis for what we have completed all our work, and then decide what you want to do then. That's the opportune time if your intent is to pursue it beyond what we do. And also the numbers aren't as big, and it's not such an administrative challenge as if you have to do it after 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. So it's that process I recommend, and generally when it gets to the stage of ComStar is finished, whatever you decide to do, I recommend you write it off right away from your books, because again, the return rate is so low for anything you might do after we're finished. From an accounting standpoint, the vast majority of the debt is very helpful. So getting it off the books sooner doesn't mean you can't do additional work. We would only reinstate the receivable if the collection was made. And you can do that by using a firm that will make phone calls. You can also report to a credit bureau, and that's a function you can do through us. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. It just puts a mark on someone's credit, and if they have a need to clear that up, or they would be able to settle that. It's a passive collection step. It's an either or in that situation, having us report to Experian or using a third party. But there are many communities that stay away from this because they just don't want, they don't think it's what their residents want. And then that's really a local decision of how do you think your community wants you to handle this for them?
Now, not on the credit side, but you had mentioned monthly write-offs, even going forth into collections or some sort of secondary step. Do you possibly have some sort of written best practice that you have given to other communities looking to enhance their returns on this and act a little quicker than they have in the past?
I don't have a written best practice. I discuss it as I'm doing now with you folks. And the other thing I would do, and it may be a worthwhile conversation, you technically have a contract with First Financial Resources in place, you're not using it, is talk to your representative there, and they can explain process and give you some comfort level with what's gonna happen when you hand the debt off to them. And then you get, you're making a fully informed decision of whether it's an option you really wanna do. I'm not the best person to explain their process, and, but I can tell you from my experience working with them, we've had this relationship where Comstar stays in the middle from a reporting standpoint only, and for over 20 years. And so there, it goes back to the time when clients didn't have an option and they asked me to take a look, and so I was able to do the research and then bring a number of clients to one party, and they were interested. It's very hard for your debt if you went to somebody on your own. It's not that big in the big scheme of things, and so to get a collection agent all fired up to work with you is a challenge. But FFR is different because they're working with many of our clients are now their clients too. So it's worked out well for them. Comstat does not take any fees if you collect from if FFR makes a collection. So we're just staying in the middle for administrative purposes and to make it easier for you.
So, I've got a two-part question.
Go ahead.
Chief, between the, thanks, Jim. Chief, between the call and the bill going to them, what's that time period? Let's say the ambulance goes out on a call, I gotta go to the hospital.
Yeah.
When is my bill being sent to them?
So when the captain comes in on Monday, he reviews all the calls for the prior week and makes sure that there's no information that's missing, that everything's there in the PCR, it's the patient care report. And then once he reviews it, he'll mark it as ready to go, and then Comstar comes in online and retrieves
We do a
those.
weekly retrieval,
Yeah.
and in general, you get your PCIs to us in a good timely fashion, so that, there's no concern about timely filing from an insurance standpoint. And then we turn things around very quickly.
Okay.
We do a very thorough verification step of the information you provide. If there's anything missing that we can find, we will find it and then submit the claim to insurance. And that all happens in a 2 to 3 day period. And then we wait for insurance to do their thing, and if there's a balance after that, we get right into reaching out to the next party, the responsible party, which in most cases is the patient.
All right, Chief, on the amounts shown here, what percentage of those are deaths for the billing, for death purposes?
Which one?
Do you know offhand?
I don't know offhand.
Do
It
you
would
guys
be.
keep track of that?
No. I mean, there is a list of patients, and a lot of times, they will be marked by Comstar as the reason.
Comstar will
But
mark
it's not,
deceased?
just to give you, if I had to guess, maybe like, I don't know the exact number you're pointing to, or which one, cause I have
Oh,
a
there's
couple
one,
of them
I see
submitted.
two amounts here, 58,307.
Oh, okay, those
And
two.
87,072.
Yeah, I mean, out of that, I would say I'd have to guess, just throw a number out there, don't hold me to it, it would be less than 10%. It depends, cause it's tough, because those tend to be the calls that are more expensive. So,
Right.
because that's gonna be the highest level of care probably,
Yep.
if that, and so, So maybe the amount could be a little bit more of that, but yeah, it's not,
Okay.
I don't want you to think, oh,
No, no.
50% of that number is
No,
that,
so let's
yeah.
say 10%.
But yeah,
So
Or less.
10%,
yeah.
250,000, whatever we have.
Yeah, you're gonna get a
outstanding.
lot of it's just the patient is not responding to collections.
Or they're dead,
Yeah, but the majority
or
of
they've
what
died.
Comstar will mark on their reports is that there's no response from the
So
person.
if there's a death, I mean, you do the billing, right, sir, for the
Yes.
fire department? So are you ever notified of a death when it comes to
That does-
billing?
That does happen from time to time.
Okay.
and It may not have occurred during the transport, or it may be days or
Okay.
weeks afterwards.
Yeah,
And then we will, but generally there's there's an estate that will handle.
correct, it's gotta go to
the
probate
bills in
if
that
there's
case. So
no
it's
trust or
very common
anything.
for us to be dealing with the estate, it's generally a family member who's the executor. And, as long as, if there's insurance in place, it's covered. And, but even balances after, generally, the estate will take care of it, so I don't know how many of those go unpaid. It's not a given that just because someone passes, it doesn't get paid, because most people have some estate, or something left over to pay for their bills after they pass.
all right. Can I keep going?
Go ahead.
Is there any way for this to be tracked? Like if somebody passes away? So, I mean, it should be I think this stuff should be all itemized by whether they've died or they're not died, if they're in probate.
Well, I would like, once again, I'd go back to the majority of these are
It's not
not
that's right,
that, but
it's
it's,
10%, right?
well, I'm just guessing at a number.
I don't
Like,
know-
from
I
just
don't
looking
know.
at these last numbers, there was a few of them that stood out with that were, and I don't know if Comstar always picks that up and puts that in their report either. Maybe that is reason, I don't know. The biggest theme is no response to collections letters, that's the biggest theme in those reports that we get. What that's from,
Yeah,
whether,
we're adding a reason code to every, anything that we put on the request for disposition report. We use a reason code, which is our best reason for what occurred. If we have a situation where someone has passed away and there is no estate, we actually have a reason code for that. So, that, we could quantify, these accounts, basically do a count of the reason code, by reason code, to give you a sense of what's what, right down to the penny, actually. But yeah, we don't always know if someone passes away. But
So-
to the
so-
extent we do,
But
we have a reason code for it.
As far as tracking, wouldn't that fall to a firm that you would get involved, and then wouldn't there be some kind of a cost factor? And now you're spending good money after bad.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, just looking at the reports is, we have, a couple here from, a couple different fiscal years. It's always, if you have insurance, we're collecting anywhere from 91 to, actually, Mr. Martin printed one out from a 2-year report, July 1 of 22 until June of 2024. Insured patients that we transport, they collected 95.84%.
Why isn't it 100%? You mean, so insurance paid, but the person might have a copay?
copay.
Yeah, okay.
So they may not pay a
But copays are
copay.
peanuts.
Insurance
But if-
was the primary, but there could be a copay being
Okay.
made.
It's a lot easier to write off a
It's approved
copay
by
than the whole
primary
thing.
care.
Right, but you have to remember that a copay can be an ambulance, right?
Yeah, so then you have, the next ones are 100% self-paid.
Yep.
As they're classified. Your billed for that 2-year span, over $17,000, we only collected 4. They're self-pay. And then if you have people who are uninsured, billed almost $14,000 in that time period, we collected $50, because they don't have insurance.
So they pay once and stop
Yeah,
paying?
Or don't pay at all.
Yeah.
That one person out of that paid $50 and
But,
The 100% self-pay insured group is people who have insurance, but 100% of the bill went to their deductible. It happens. I mean, we do have software that, when we actually check, one of the verifications we do is we check the deductible before we submit the claim. And if there's a deductible remaining, we'll put a lag on it of maybe up to 30 days. It's well within timely filing, but we're looking to see that the hospital can get their bill in first and eat up that deductible for you folks, so that you're gonna get paid direct from insurance. So that's one of the reasons that the insured group is as high as it is. In some cases, we're waiting for the hospital bill to hit first, so that we're not having to chase the patient on your behalf. It's much cleaner if you get paid from insurance.
so, these numbers I'm looking at, so you're thinking it's probably 8 or 9% of just, it's obviously not insurance collections that are on our books, right? Or it's small portion of it could be copay.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Barron would answer that better, is that the difference in
I
that,
say if
with
you-
the
if you look
insured,
at the bulk of the co-pays is, if you look at the insured group, the uncollected amount, I'm just eyeballing it here, it's like 12 grand. Those are unpaid co-pays and deductibles. Because insurance came in and made the primary, it made a payment of some amount. And so those would be patients who have insurance who didn't pay, of the 354 patients, it's $12,000 worth of co-pays and possibly a partial deductible that didn't get paid. It's not, it's the group where there is really no insurance coverage, where the collection rates are generally lower, is they're getting the full bill, whether be they're uninsured or the whole bill went towards their deductible and they can't afford it.
Okay. So, my next question, anybody else got questions? Cause I'm getting sick of asking questions.
Yes, I've got questions.
All right, go ahead.
So, if we go, you're with Comstar, right? I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Rick Martin.
Rick Martin. You're with Comstar, right?
Yes, I am.
He's the owner.
Okay. So, if we go to FFR collections for these unpaid bills, what percentage of revenue does the town realize, if any?
Let's see. 2/3. The collection agent, doesn't cost anything up front. If there's a collection made, the collection agent will keep 1/3, and then the remaining 2/3 will be remitted direct to the town. And there's Comstat, even though Comstat does some reporting in the middle, we don't take any fee at all on those accounts. Again, we're just staying in the middle to make the reporting a little bit easier for you folks.
Okay, now let's talk about, I think it's the 58,000 that's beyond 5 years,
7.
It's over
beyond 7 years. I mean, you said, what's the likelihood of recouping any of that money? I think I heard you say a little while ago that it's highly unlikely we get any of that money back.
If it's under a year old, the collection rate is approximately 3 to 5%. Anything over a year, I mean, FFI will accept it, but there's just nothing they can really do with something that old. So I generally tell clients, if it's over a year, it's kind of a waste of time to send it to FFR. But they won't reject it if I send them. But I've talked to Larry Gordon, their owner, and he says, Rick, realistically, if we get something that's over a year or more old, there's very little, if any, return we're going to get on that.
So with that being said, the $58,307.12 and the $87,072.76, are both of those figures are older than a year old. So the
Yeah,
likelihood,
I would say
the
with
likelihood,
those receivables, it would, I would not recommend doing any more work on those, given their age.
right,
Spinning needles.
You may open up a can of worms where someone gets annoyed and all of a sudden it becomes a problem that the town has to deal with because someone's very unhappy that, well, man, after all these years, you're coming back at me. That type of stuff, which, you know, some municipalities do it, but I strongly, I don't like to get in the middle of those, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's a problem waiting to happen. So I recommend people, you know, if for whatever reason, and this is a cleanup project, is what I see. What I recommend going forward is that you look at that request for distribution report every month, and if you're inclined to do something more, if your intent is never to do anything and you just wanna write it off whenever you think it's best, that's your call. But if you're intending on trying to do some collection work after we're done, you really ought to be looking at the report monthly and getting back to us and say, hey, send this to FFR, I don't wanna send that one. Now, some communities will do this based on resident, non-resident. I wouldn't recommend it for a private business, but for a municipality, it's distinguishing between taxpayers and non-taxpayers. Because at the end of the day, whatever doesn't get collected is covered by your taxpayers. So some communities take the position, I'm not gonna do this for our taxpayers. However, somebody that's out of town, or you have situations, and we would flag it to you, where the insurance company pays the patient directly and the patient fails to remit. And that happens. And we can flag that to you, and whether it's resident or non, a lot of communities will take the position that, oh, they're definitely going collections right away because they took money that wasn't theirs. So those are just, I guess, attitudes or that I've seen amongst municipal clients.
understood. And Nate, as accounts receivable, we're not budgeting these receivables into our budget in any way, shape, or form.
We are. The ambulance revenue comes in under the line ambulance receivables in the revenue side of our budget.
But we're not spending against these numbers that we haven't realized.
No, we are not.
Okay.
So,
We're not spending against the numbers that we are realizing. We're
So,
doing a percentage of that.
why is this stuff being carried so long? It shouldn't be carried so long.
I agree.
If you don't get paid in 6 months, it should go to collection, right to collection, and not be carried on our books for 7 years, 5 years, 3 years, 4 years.
And I do think that we should work on establishing a policy, maybe not when we're taking up Mr. Jones'
Yeah,
time.
no, I understand,
but
and I
if that is
understand he
something
just does the
select
billing.
board instructed me
So-
to do, I would work with the chief and speak to FFR and do what we need to do to establish what would be, I believe would be received as a decent policy and bring it forward.
Well, I think Mr. Martin just recommended a couple times a best practice policy to review it monthly and make sure we
Yeah.
keep up with it and go
Got
from
it
there.
right,
So I
yeah.
think we
Well-
should leverage his expertise.
Well, I think it depends on which side you wanna do. Like he said, the board before, the previous one, 4 years ago, didn't wanna go to collections.
Right.
So at that point, you can write them off whenever you want.
Right.
At that time, it was once a year. I think it's supposed to be like in July or something like that. We'd meet with me and the town administrator and supposed to review it.
Yeah.
And because of the town administration, ministers changing, that just kinda got pushed off.
Oh, yeah.
But there was no urgency to write them off.
Right.
Because there was no
Right.
collections. If you guys wanna do that, then like I said, that's another discussion that I think we need to have, and
Yeah, I mean, we can't be
Well,
carrying.
in my humble opinion, I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, this money's gone, it's lost,
Yeah.
right? We've gotta
So,
write this off.
yeah.
But going forward, we've gotta change something to get ahead of this so that, you know, like Mr. Martin said, if it gets beyond a year, the likelihood of us getting anything back is no good, so we gotta try to stay more current with it, right?
6 to 12.
I mean, we've got money out there 2 to 5 years old, and then the rest is older than that, so. Yeah.
And there also is a side of that, whether it be resident, non-resident, or circumstance by circumstance, there's
Sure.
a little more to this than
Well, yeah.
black, white.
But if you're on it monthly, if you gotta look at a report monthly and see who owes what, or you make your decision right then and there. There's no sense of wasting any more time if somebody's died. Write it off. If the insurance is paid, if they can't pay the copay and they've died, write that off right away. It should not be on our books. That's the way I feel.
I have a question for Mr. Martin. What's the realistic window on that? Because I've noticed, like, typically by the time we bill, you guys get it, it seems to be a couple months before we actually see the money come in. Plus, then sometimes we see stuff where it's maybe a motor vehicle accident or something, like we've received partial payment. And then sometimes clients do set up payment things. How long from the time from when you expect payment to you guys deeming it uncollectible?
Well.
And then is that a year from when
Your biggest category, as is most clients, is Medicare and Medicaid. That's about 290. It's like 70% of your receivable. Those are all getting settled in, Medicare's turnaround time is 15 days to get you paid once the claim is submitted. And Medicaid, 30 to 45. So a good chunk of things, the money that, the 87% collected amount that you're getting that very quickly. The examples you give of, one is motor vehicle accident, that would get extended if there's litigation. There's a couple of carriers that take a little while. The VA is, wicked slow. But those are the exceptions. In general, Blue Cross pays promptly, and most other insurances are paying in 30 to 45 days. So, worst case, you're settling the vast majority of the ones that are largely paid in this fiscal year of 2004. 354 out of your 377 transports were paid within 60 days, max. So that's the vast majority of your transports. There's 23 of them that probably strung out a little bit longer.
So what's that, 75%?
Which means we went through our whole billing and collection process,
Right around
which is, for any balances that are due, we're gonna send a correspondence every 30 days. We send 3, then we use a collection letter. So that gets you to 4 months. Again, so those may go a little bit longer, but it's a smaller percentage of your transports. But that would, even if we get through all those steps, if there's a balance to be paid, it's still timely to get, still well within a good timeliness to get it to FFR if you choose to. So it's.
So when should it go to FFR, between 6 and 12 months?
As soon as we're done.
If we
So
were
that
going to make that decision.
That could be 60 days, it could be 4 months, depending on the process we have to go, how many steps we have to actually execute. If insurance takes a little while, then there's a balance after, and then we go through our cycle of 4 correspondents.
Yeah.
And that's another 4 months to something, it could be 6 months. In the worst case scenario would be something at around 6 months. We definitely 99.9% of our work is done based on date of service. But the vast majority of them are done sooner, within 90 days. But those smaller amounts, they could go as much as 6 months. But when we would flag them as soon as we've finished our process, on the monthly request, we do a monthly request for disposition, and then we also send a cumulative one. Because not every client works their report every month, so there'll be accounts that some do it quarterly, some do it every 6 months.
So who does, do you do ours when you get a report from him on where we stand with money needed to be collected? Does he send it to you? Or do you send?
I get reports and the treasurer gets them. I think Nate does too.
I got the last one. I didn't usually get them, but I did get the
Or
last one.
on a monthly basis, it would be like 4 or 5 accounts. If you do it as you go, it's 4 or 5 accounts that you have to take a look at and make a decision.
We need to do it
So
monthly.
it's-
And we'll, like, we can have another discussion about this, we'll need to decide resident versus non-resident. I'm nervous from a business standpoint to say on public record, we're not gonna send in residents, cause
No,
then
yeah.
residents
No,
likely
we'll
won't
have a
pay.
meeting on that, but we need to we're laying groundwork, or yeah, something's gotta be done. To me, it's a lot easier if you go 6 months or whatever. These numbers that I'm looking at right here are hard to take, but, you know, it's over a 2 to 5 year period. If we do this annually, it's not gonna be like that. It's a lot easier to write off, $8,000, $9,000 than it is to write off, you know, 80, 90, 140,000.
And we'll save.
Even though it adds up over the years, it's a lot easier looking at 9 than it is 140.
And not that it really impacts much because the town doesn't have a credit score per se, but
Right.
those derogatory marks on our audit would not be there either, so.
Alright. Cause I know we've been talking about this for a year now, and here we are. Okay,
Okay, is there anything else from Mr. Martin?
Not for mine. And I kind of hear what you guys are saying with, I'd like to recommend that I reach out to some other towns, see if anyone has a similar policy on something like this and bring forward a written document in your next meeting or two.
yeah, I mean, like he said, they're flagging something.
Yeah.
If, like, basically when they're done with it, or they're flagging it, you know, they've kinda come at their wit's end with the bill. It's gotta, the attention's gotta be brought up by somebody here. We can't just let this stuff ride. So, that's taxpayer dollars we're throwing away. I mean, not throwing away, but it's, you know, money we never got, but, you know what I'm
And
saying?
Once there is a set precedence.
Policy.
And I don't know if I'd go as far as policy, but we could update the policy, which is something they clearly tried to do in 2020. But let's take a look at it, have those
Yeah, those were
conversations.
some tough years, so, I understand 2020
Yeah.
and 21, 22.
Yeah, we can
That-
take that offline. I don't think
Yeah.
Mr. Martin needs to hang on the
Yeah,
line
no,
here
right. Thank
for
you
us
for your time.
conversation.
Did you wanna?
I'm good.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you taking the time out of your night to come and be part of this conversation. It was really educational and we appreciate your time.
We appreciate your, working with you folks over the years, and glad to help anytime. If you need any information from me, or you want me to get contact information, for you for FFRs, you can talk to them about process, if you're looking at going down that road, just let me know. I know Chief has my email and my cell phone number. Just let me know and I can get that to you right away.
We thank
Okay,
you for that.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, if any further discussion on this right now? If not, could we have, cause I think we're in agreement to this part of it, is that this, the money has to be written off at this particular point in time, so could we, have a motion to authorize the write-off of the uncollectible ambulance debt as presented?
So moved.
Motion's made, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, and a second, all right. Any further questions or discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
So, this meeting tonight is gonna spur some action, so this stuff doesn't happen anymore?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm gonna review the policy.
Yeah.
We knew that it wasn't a perfect procedure, but I
Yeah.
did have a feeling that this was gonna result in, at the very least, some studying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, I just, at some point, it's gotta be bumped on the next step if you're gonna bump it to the next step. You can't sit on it for 3 years, you better get on it at the 6-month mark.
Yeah.
It could be in probate, so, but if you know if it's probate court, you leave it alone.
I just wanna I mean, if, it depends on the board and how they view it. The last one didn't wanna proceed with collections, so it doesn't really, from my standpoint, it doesn't matter if it builds up. Yeah, it's optics,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really matter. Obviously, we wanna collect as much, and we do collect 95.84%.
Right.
Which, I think at this point, in the history of the ambulance, last time we went through this in 2020, I think I had the revenue we brought into the town was just over $2.1 million. A couple years after that was 140 every year, now we're up to 185, and the last one we're projected for 223. So we're getting over $2.5 to almost $3 million that this service is brought back to the community. So that's kinda how I view it.
Yeah, but
And no service collects 100%.
no, I agree that, but your
And
service,
a lot of communities are a lot worse off when they see these collection percentages. They're like, wow, you know. So we're fortunate.
so you brought back, what, 2.5 million to the town?
Yeah.
But your budget is 1.5 million. So it's not really 2.5 million you brought back. You know what I mean? That's how I look at
But
it.
the way I look at it is we provide a service
Yeah.
that doesn't matter if it was 100% paid by the taxpayers. We're bringing in money to offset. No other department does that,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
Too bad they can't.
No, I see,
mean, they do
yeah.
to a certain degree with
Yeah,
inspection fees
I
and
see
stuff
your
like
point.
that, but,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, anytime you got money coming in is a positive thing.
yeah.
You know, and like I said, if we do this, like I told you, it's easier to write off something at a lower amount than it is to let it ride for 5 to 7 years.
Right. Yeah.
It does seem that this conversation is more about the process that we go through and when we go through it than it is anyone not believing that the department is doing anything incorrectly or
No,
the
no.
billing company,
I
so
have not,
those
we
aren't
have not
the-
said that,
yeah.
I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying, we need to tighten up the time of stuff being on the books. At the 6-month mark, something's gotta get done, either it goes to collections or it gets written off.
And the whole collections thing is one of those things that I think is a gray area.
Yeah,
You know, because there are people, you said a lot of this was like co-pays and stuff. There are people out there that, they just can't afford it.
I agree.
And if you look, I don't think it's with the documents that Nate gave you, but I gave you what our billing rates are. You know, it was years ago, this was prior to Ryan, you know, the town, how can we increase revenue? And, well, so finally, they gave a recommendation of what other communities collect. Our rates are still some of the highest to this day after like 8 years.
Yeah.
So like, if you go on an ambulance ride with me for like a broken leg, it's gonna be over $3,000 bill. So you can imagine if somebody doesn't have insurance, the impact that is to them.
I
So,
do understand that,
yeah.
and I say, me as a town taxpayer in town, if I didn't have insurance, as far as I'm concerned, my real estate taxes should be paying for my ride to, I come from the era where they didn't charge you to take an ambulance ride, okay?
Yeah.
So now, the big thing is the charge, because you're getting most of your money from insurance and Medicare, or Medicaid, Medicare. That's where the bulk of the money, 74% of your money comes from those two areas. That's why they started billing people for rides.
If I could jump in, though, I think, cause we're certainly gonna be doing some research on this,
Yep.
and we're gonna put it on the agenda. I think we should, try to end this now and move on. Because we're certainly gonna be discussing it,
You the chair.
okay?
Move on.
No, I'm just recommending, we have a motion now,
Yeah.
so.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
we're
vote.
still in
So,
motion?
We're still in the
Alright,
motion,
we have
can I
a motion.
have, cause
Yeah,
I
we
had
voted,
some
yeah,
ready.
You know me, I always got something to say.
Okay, so without any further discussion, the motion has been made and second. Again, what we are voting on is to write off the collectible ambulance jet as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
You should
Thank
have
you.
cut me off 10 minutes ago, Jeff.
It's okay.
I would like to thank the chief for coming out and for getting
Thanks,
all of
Chief.
this.
Yes,
We'll-
thanks, Bob.
Hey,
Appreciate
Chief,
it.
I don't want you to think I'm after anybody. I do this for my knowledge and to bring it up for the residents at home that if they watch, you know, 'cause they're not gonna know what's going on here, so I like to brighten everybody's,
Right.
horizon.
Yeah, I was just.
Yeah, I don't
with
want you to
the-
think I'm after
It's
you
the
or
position that the board was before.
Yeah,
You know, not wanting to go to collections, which I agree with that.
I can understand a percentage of it, but if you
yeah.
got out of town, I'd be after them.
Well, then it's the same thing if we go to somebody in another town and then they don't wanna get our ambulance.
But you can't call out,
because-
if it's somebody's brother, you know
Yeah,
what
you
I
know,
mean?
so, it's a gray area, and I understand, we don't have a lot of money, so as much money as we can
Hey,
collect.
if we can get
is a
80
good
cents on a
thing.
dollar, I'm about it all day long,
Yeah.
right?
So, yeah, it's a
But,
win.
but it's also a problem that's not gonna ever totally disappear.
Well,
no,
Going
no,
back to
yeah.
the board of the
Yeah.
20, which I was also on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The decision was reached simply because it was not worth the time the time and the effort that would be involved
For the
when
amount.
you weigh it against the return you're gonna get
Return,
back.
correct.
That was pretty much what the board was feeling, so we said, no, we just didn't wanna do with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a chance this board makes a similar choice, but it doesn't hurt to look into it. That door doesn't unlock, it's only this one that has the keyword.
But, and like I said, we need to get off of this, but my idea is, if you tackle this in the first year, you're not gonna have numbers like this on your books.
And you'll know what numbers are kind of conceivable to be brought back in, and after a year, what's not gonna come, so.
Yeah.
Right off sooner, even though it is optics per se, you still don't wanna be carrying a $300,000-$4,000
No, sir.
number.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bob, have a good night.
Have a good night.
We'll move on to item 4, FY 26 FY 30 financial forecast.
Chief, 1 second.
Chief,
Chief,
sorry.
I just, right in front of all of them, I do wanna thank you and your department. These guys have been out nonstop the last
Thank you.
couple of days
Yeah.
with
Thank
all
you.
of
I
the
mean, I'll stop
fires
for something.
related
Thank
to
you,
the
but
drought,
thank you for
helping other
what you guys
communities
do.
near and far. They
Even
went
us that asked
a
for
lot
it.
further than
A
I
lot of years, but
anticipated.
recently, we haven't
Yeah.
been this dry in years.
Pass that on to the guys
I will, thank you.
and gals.
I mean, I wasn't out with them last night, but yeah,
Yeah.
they were working hard, and then, they had to go back out this morning, like I said, out in the rain, to put out the hot spots.
Yeah.
Got done with that around, I think, 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then they were back out to Winchton,
Mm.
and just got back at, I think, like 6:30 or 6 for that, so.
Making money.
Tough
Yeah.
time. Thanks again, Bob.
Yep.
So, pass it over to you, Nate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, just ahead of it, I'm well aware that the printed out PowerPoints for the forecast are difficult to read, but I've messed with it for longer than I should have and couldn't get it to invert. So I'm going to be bringing it up on the screen as well.
What are we on, number 4?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just for everyone at home, we will be posting this to a section of the website to view, correct?
Yes, so
Yes.
this is the annual financial forecast report. The whole report, it's about 30 pages, will be released to the general public by the end of the week. This is quite the busy week with special town meeting and everything going on, so I didn't have time to get it to the level of pretty I want it, but it'll be there. Just give me 1 second.
Oh, I forgot to add to the liaison that there is no childcare special town meeting.
Oh, really?
All right, so, thank you. This is our annual financial forecast. This year, I learned even more than I did last year, in that I do not want to present at you. So I'm hoping that this can be more of a open conversation with questions versus a lecture. So this year, I did try to keep things a little more positive while being realistic versus the practice over the last couple of years of screaming about the sky falling, we're gonna be $2 million in the hole, 6 months later we aren't, what did we do? Oh, it was good budgeting. But in reality, it was gloomy forecasting. So I tried my best to ensure that some of the numbers I'm using here today were both realistic and, I don't want to use the word optimistic, but favorable, so that not everything is just our worst day. This is what I just kind of went over. This is highlighting the town's revenue base, with property taxes providing for 80% of our gross funding. That is still not a great number. It is not out of the realm of what other rural municipalities are seeing. There is certainly some room for additional economic development and looking into different revenue sources, but we do, to look at it favorably, have a very stable revenue source. It is unfortunately,
Real estate.
yeah, it is unfortunately real estate, but we can over time do our best to diversify, and that is something we've been looking to do for decades and decades. It is my hope to be able to take slow but sure, calculated steps towards economically developing parts of the town that are able to be developed. Not put a Walmart on Mount Jeff, but look into what could be done along 68 to potentially ease the tax burden on the taxpayer. The forecast this year, much like the last 2 years, and I'm sure for years before that, addresses rising expenditures, particularly in education, public safety, and infrastructure. The town has been better over the last, let's say, decade about taking care of infrastructure. There is still a lot to be desired, and we will never, much like every other town and the other 350 communities in the Commonwealth, be able to do everything every single year. That, yes, sir.
So your stable revenue base is 80% from property taxes?
Yes.
What percent do we get from, commercial businesses, commercial properties?
That is
Do you have a
part-
percentage?
I do. I'll have to
Is
look
that
at
coming up soon?
It is.
I jumped the gun.
Yeah.
I usually do.
And if not, I can pull it up. I have the whole chart.
No, he's got it, it's coming.
I'm just curious if property tax is 80%, commercial might be, what, less than 5?
I can get you that broken up if
Okay.
it's not fully
But,
in there.
I mean, I'm just
It's
curious. And where do we
not
rate comparable?
lovely. Like,
Where do we rate comparable to other towns with this population?
oh, you're way jumping the.
Yeah, he's got
jumping it
that.
now.
You got all that?
That's
It's all
like
in
10.
the
Okay.
report. It's all in the
Oh.
report.
This
Thank
is
you.
like 2 stuff. And
Thank you.
some of our goals, we want to leverage grants to fund key initiatives without relying solely on the tax revenue, ensure forecast models promote confidence and avoid unnecessary strain on staff and constituents by reflecting realistic and balanced assumptions. The key highlights of this presentation are that we have a stable revenue base, like I just said, but it's unfortunately taxes. Rising expenditures led by education costs. We're going to be going into and expanding upon strategic initiatives for revenue diversification and operational efficiency. Within the next 2 or 3 meetings, I am anticipating coming forward with a fee plan to look into what we could potentially have for fees that keep us both competitive with communities in the area while increasing revenue. There's obviously some of them, like alcohol licenses, that it wouldn't be very beneficial for a town the size of Hubbardston to raise because
can't-
you have 2. But,
Why,
yes,
why
sir.
can't the fees be based off, the property tax thing every year, 2.5%?
It depends how many you're getting, like, and we are going to look into that. I've looked, that's coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm early again.
That's a couple of meetings early, like, but Patricia and I have been for the past few months pulling together data from the different departments, and especially now with us transitioning to the full online e-permitting, I wanna make sure that everything is lined up and where it should be ahead of that eventual turnover.
All right, thank you.
And then at the end, we go over a vision for fiscal health in 2030. Call it Hubbardston 2030, because everything needs a brand name. Like, revenue in breakdown of revenue streams: 9.28 million from property taxes, 709,000 from state aid, and 1.5 million from local receipts, which are your permits and your pilot funds and money we get from solar. So that's the longest list, but the second highest. Those are the numbers we will look into with the fees. That is fortunately the last year or so, and with our investment into the overnight stipend program, I'm anticipating a decent amount of revenue growth in the ambulance fund while looking at some relatively stable numbers across the board. It's not necessarily a Hubbardston thing that decides those numbers, but rather a economic and culture thing. So we'll see. The stability from this comes from Proposition 2.5, which I personally believe is unfortunate because it keeps the 2.5 on the town side but not on the school side. But that is a problem that we have been looking at for well longer than any of us have been either involved in the town or serving in their current capacity. We are increasing efforts to economically develop where we can and are seeking grants at a higher level than we have in the past. It is very challenging to be able to find room on staff plates. That's why I am hoping that our relationship with the Capital Strategic Solutions will be able to grow into something, and I have been very, very stern with that company that we need to see early success in order for us to really buy in past where we are now.
Yep.
Any questions on the revenue side from this point?
Or lack thereof.
It's very, very similar to every year.
Yeah, but I mean, the state aid, 6.3% is terrible. When you see what they waste money on elsewhere. But it is what it is.
Our expenditures. Education is our largest category at anticipated $7.2 million next year. That we are fortunate in that the school did hold a meeting. Peter, Jeff, and I don't know if anyone else attended virtually, but Peter, Jeff, and I attended from here for a short period of time because the night was triple booked for meetings, but it was a very positive meeting. We found out that the numbers are going to go down by 3 students.
I thought it was 9. Was it 9 students?
I'll have to go back and
I
check.
think it was 9.
It might be 9. 3 was sticking out in my head for some reason, but it could be 3 overall and maybe 9 in Hubbardston. I'd have to go
Right.
back and look, but it is going down. I'm hard pressed to believe that we're going to see a decrease financially.
No savings, no, no.
But we are
Gotta get to 10%.
not in a position like last year. They're also looking into the regional agreements. I am looking forward to talking about that. They are already started floating around to the municipalities if we would wanna see a 3 or a 5-year average versus this year after year, which would increase our stability in forecasting and budgeting, but would also kind of, you're just stretching out the pain. Like, instead of
Yeah.
taking that one hit, that one year and
It's going
hoping
over
that it's
5
better,
years, yeah.
but it's one way or the other eventually. Then we have education at 62.1%, liabilities and assessments at 9.4%, debt at 1.3%, town personnel at 19.1%, town services at 1.5%, and facilities, utilities, gear, supplies, and capital for the town at 6.6%. All of these numbers are broken down to the dollar in your spreadsheets, and you have the raw data.
Does this include 48 Gardner Road? These numbers?
Which numbers?
Yeah, all of them. Your services, your
Well,
facilities?
we haven't had.
Facilities, utilities?
I did increase the line items by a certain amount due to the fact that we purchased 48 Gardner Road, but it is not necessarily a quantified impact at this time, because we don't know.
Because it's being offset by rent.
It's being offset by rent, and there are variables, like, it's really how many plumbing issues.
I was just gonna say plumbing.
And how many, like, we have yet to fully discover what the cost or lack thereof cost is going to be for 48 Gardner Road.
Yeah, and right now the tenants also pay their heat,
Yep.
and they pay their electric, so that we don't, some of this we won't know for a while,
Yeah.
the full cost,
And we're
unfortunately.
also going to take proactive steps to alleviate some of the future burden while it's while there's money coming in. So if we can figure out some projects with solar or some projects just to streamline certain things, I would rather look into those over the next couple of years versus learn it the hard way when the town owns the building straight out. Well, not that we don't own the building, when
We
the town
own
is
the
the sole
Proprietary.
proprietor of the building. Recent financial trends. Revenue growth is steady, led by property taxes, while state aid remains variable. Rising expenditures, especially in education, inflation and deferred maintenance add financial pressure. We have to connect these trends to proactive planning and fiscal discipline. The town has been very good at following the policies over the last few years. It has been a financially difficult stretch of time with COVID and the rampant turnover, and I'm hoping that we're on the other side and at the very least at the front end of a phase, but you never know.
5-year phase.
Yeah. With my revenue and expenditure forecast predictions, if in the raw data, I did property tax expected to grow by 2.5% annually due to Proposition 2.5. In the format that we're doing, it's supported by $100,000 in new growth contributions each year. On the chart, I ended up going 120, because to be honest, this is also the chart I'm using for my budget, and I have budget numbers now, so, but between 100 and 120 is a stable estimate for new growth at this time. This year came in at 134,000. State aid, I have estimated at a 2% annual increase. This year was a little over 2.5. This reflects a conservative projection based on historical patterns. Local receipts are projected to grow between 2 and 4% annually, driven by motor vehicle excise taxes, permits, and fees on 5-year averages. The 5-year average of our motor vehicle excise was over 6, but with variables in other areas of the budget, I did not feel that that was pertinent, so I kept it at 4. This past year, we were able to conservatively increase at 7, and it came in at 8 and some change. And that's really based upon who's buying cars, not anything that the government could do from your seats. Expenditure assumptions, we have general government going up 2% annually, education, an annual growth of 6.31 in the Quabbin Regional School District and 2% at Monty Tech. That is a 5-year average. Public safety anticipated increase by 3% annually. Public works forecasted 4% annual growth for materials, road maintenance, and infrastructure upgrade due to inflation. Employee benefits, health insurance, and retirement contributions I have at 5 to 6% annually, dependent on 5-year averages and market trends. Policy on free cash. The FY26 allocation, free cash, we have to reserve for high impact one-time expenses such as capital improvements and stabilization. Reliance on free cash for operational expenses, I have in this tapering off 15 to 20% annually, starting this year with the full deficit covered at 85,153, which will likely be higher when we actually find out what the school is, but at 6%, it's not the worst picture. And going forward to being completely tapered off in FY30 with a deficit of $118,000, and that is not a gloom and doom forecast. It is 100% realistic. I found that there was no value in sitting here and telling you, like we did 5 years ago, oh, in 2026 we're gonna be in a $2.5 million deficit. Are we in a $2.5 million deficit? No. Is it sunny and 75 every day? Also no. But the town is doing the best that it can with what it has in making optimizing choices and doing what we can, as Hubbardston and many rural communities always have. Long-term financial goals, maintain stabilization reserves at 5% where they are now. It is my hope that we can continue to go above 5% because you never know when those rainy days are coming, and we would rather have that. Looking at the capital plan that we're going to be moving forward, and having asked the departments and the school to really let us know what is coming up, it's a hefty amount of stuff. So being able to squirrel away a little bit of money here, there, and everywhere is going to be very beneficial in the end. We have to prioritize preventative maintenance, as we have been doing. The town has made very substantial progress with the facilities and the roads. It will never be enough for some people, and it is hard to justify investments because it's usually not your street, and it's a NIMBY, a not in my backyard type of mentality where it's never good enough as long as it's other people's driveway or other people's road, and it's unfortunate and just the way life is. The key takeaway of most of these assumptions is that it provides a realistic framework for fiscal growth while limiting reliance on free cash over time, maintaining prudent expenditure management, and approaching a sustainable future for Hubbardston. Bar chart. So you can tell that by this bar chart that looking back to FY20, it's stable, 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 and as you continue progressing into the future, the expenditures begin to outpace the revenue. Most of that is due to just variables. We don't know how much our individual bills are going to be in 5 years either. And if you do, please let me know, because I would like to work with you.
I think they're gonna be better than they are now.
One can only hope.
My personal feeling.
Strategic financial initiatives, revenue diversification, grants. My goal for the next 5 years is going to be approximately $500,000 annually. That I hope can be higher in some years, and if to offset maybe a lower year, but the goal in working with this strategic grant partner and emphasizing grant management and grant applications on a staff level, I'm hoping to be able to increase that a little bit. The economic development to expand tax base is very important. The fee review will be coming in the next few weeks. Efficiency improvements, we have to study shared services with neighboring communities when possible and when beneficial. The technology efficiency upgrades are going to go a long way in terms of staff utilization and being able to utilize the great and skilled staff we have for more progressive actions instead of tying them down on the slower paced parts of municipal government. We will also be looking into further energy efficiencies and energy efficiency initiatives over the next few years. Hopefully they all go a little smoother than the heat pump project at the library.
Yeah, what's their issue?
National Grid is a nightmare.
National Grid was a nightmare. The easement, they didn't understand that the building was built in the 1800s, that the easement and the deed that we have is from the 1800s. They're like, no, that deed is too old, you need a new deed. And we're
And
like, no, that's
doesn't-
the deed, like,
Yeah.
what do you
And
want
they
us
won't
to
approve
do?
the three-phase without the
This
the
deed.
easement, the deed, and it's,
They didn't realize that the land the library sits on was eventually used for the school and then for the Slade building, that these are the buildings that have the easements, not that the library has the easement to the land. And try explaining that to National Grid 7 different times.
So are they gonna
this,
What?
yes.
three?
Everything is approved, we're waiting on the
Okay.
easement. This morning, we were upped to a manager. From the, yeah, we're gonna speak to the manager.
Oh, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought the three-phase was already in,
It was
Oh.
approved.
It was
Approved.
approved.
They,
until
but-
they got to this glitch.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, they'll find another glitch, don't
Yeah.
worry.
They just don't wanna do it.
Benchmark communities contextualizing Hubbardston's financial position. Why benchmarking matters. Benchmarking compares Hubbardston's financial metrics with similar towns to identify strengths, areas for improvement, and strategic opportunities. This ensures Hubbardston remains competitive while addressing community needs. Key comparisons. Princeton, Barry, Templeton, Rutland, and other regional towns with comparable populations, budgets, and services were studied. I have 7 charts, if you guys would like to read the very boring
No.
municipal
No.
comparative communities charts.
Okay.
But we reviewed average single-family tax bill, education spending as percentage of the budget, public safety expenditures, and debt and reserve levels on top of about 10 other things. Hubbardston versus regional average. Average regional tax bill is $4,500 compared to Hubbardston's $4,200. Education spending as percent of a budget, Hubbardston 62%, regional 55%, so we do spend approximately 7% more of our budget than our regional colleagues on education. Public safety spending, Hubbardston at 14% with the regional average at 12%. Hubbardston invests slightly more in education and public safety, ensuring high service quality while maintaining a tax bill below the regional average. So when I'm saying Hubbardston is doing more with less, it's factual. Like, we are doing more with less.
So, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
That the average tax bill is based off a $400,000 home? Not 200?
I'll have to get you that.
We've had this discussion
I
before.
did up it after $200,000 conversation and the whole 48 Gardner Road purchase time. I'd have to go back and look at my numbers to tell you exactly, and.
Yeah, I'm just curious what the average tax bill and the regional average and what what you get basing the regional off of, I'm just curious.
Without tying anything to it, I wanna say 350, but I'd have to go back. I pulled this about 2 weeks ago and have just been working with the numbers.
Alright,
Yeah, 'cause some of those towns
Yeah.
swing wildly on
yeah,
house prices.
they certainly
Yeah.
do.
That's for sure.
I'd like to ask a question in regards to the education and in terms of the benchmark communities. Just for my own edification in terms of trying to understand. For example, Rutland and Princeton, in some situations, you know, number one, the population and so forth. Revenue-wise, they're well-to-do towns. We pay 62% of our to education, and
I'd
they're on
say-
average 5 to 7% less. My question, I guess, is it simply we're in Quabbin Regional as opposed to Wachusett Regional? Do they have a different formula? How come the communities that can obviously afford it are paying that much less than what we end up with, and basically have no chance of doing anything because, you know, we get
Choices over time, regional representation.
There's gotta be a lot of variables that
Yeah,
go into
there's
that, the
so-
number of towns that
Yeah.
Yeah.
go to a school.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
Wachusett could
you
have
know,
So that's why I'm
you're
trying to
comparing
figure out what
apples
the
and
basis
oranges
is
there.
that-
It's, you know,
Whereas Princeton, I do
Because Wachusett
agree-
Regional, that's a large region,
Yeah.
that's I think
It's
that's
the
larger
big-
than
it's the-
Quabbin.
It is, it's the biggest regional school system in the state. much use it. And,
Is it bigger than Montytech?
well, it's the biggest regular school system in the state. I don't have comparable data for vocational schools versus regional schools. And I'd go as far as saying that Princeton, yes, is more affluent. Hubbardston and Rutland likely share a similar affluence. Because there is more here than one would anticipate, as we have seen with the school budgets year after year.
Yeah, but the Rutland's got double the
Yeah,
people in the
yeah.
town that we have.
Yeah.
Twice the amount of homes.
And
I
that's,
mean, you
that's
can't-
still fairly new.
You can't really compare those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways, moving along.
Yeah.
yeah.
Education spending per pupil, Hubbardston 15.2, state average 14.5, regional average 14.8. So we are paying more.
Yeah. Can't figure that one out.
Alright, move on. Here are the data numbers actually broken down in a chart. The key insight that's found here is Hubbardston's average single-family tax bill is competitive, positioned below the regional average, indicating a relatively lower tax burden for residents. The town, however, you have to take into consideration, you have, economic development. So
Excuse me.
it feels just as heavy because there's nothing alleviating that burden.
Well, let's go back to the education spend. I mean, I guess we know why we're spending more than the other towns, because we've got the highest number of kids going to the school, right?
No, we have the second highest number of kids going to the school. Barry still has more children, but the other parts of the formula do not work out in Hubbardston's favor because there is a little bit more affluency. There are newer families moving in at a higher rate than in Barry, and there are a couple of other factors at play
Yeah,
too.
I mean, isn't it based off the valuation of properties, residences in town?
And when you put the 5 towns together, we are
A lot more-
very different, especially compared to a couple of the towns that
Yeah.
are much lower.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're building more houses here than they are in Ocam.
Yeah, Barry's a decent comparison,
Braintree.
and I do think Hubbardston will one day either be almost neck and neck equal with Barry as the highest population school, or beat it.
Yeah, I won't
So-
be here by then. My house taxes will be 15,000 a year.
The town allocates a higher percentage of its budget to education compared to neighboring communities, reflecting a strong commitment to educational service. Public safety spending as a percentage of the budget aligns very closely with regional norms, ensuring adequate funding for essential services. Infrastructure and capital assets that we'll have to look in over the next 5 years. 48 Gardner Road, roads and bridges, public safety, IT infrastructure. I won't bore you with that, it's the same thing I always say. We have to focus on comprehensive facility investments, including facility upgrades, preventative maintenance, fleet and equipment maintenance, and facility care. The town has been doing a lot better at maintaining what it has and ensuring the investment, but we're always 1 or 2 years away from slipping right back. If you skip the capital plan for 2 years to focus on something else, then suddenly you're in a really bad spot again.
Nate,
Yes, sir.
on this particular slide, for the fleet and equipment, you mentioned police cruisers and fire apparatus, and I was just curious, where's the DPW fleet involved in all of this?
It's in there.
It's its own category.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those dump trucks are like every 16,
Well, I
18
mean,
years.
why was left out, or?
Yeah. I was not purposefully left out.
Okay,
They're pretty, we're in a pretty good shape right now with.
because they would also have to have a prediction.
There's a dump
Of what
truck
they're gonna
on
be
the
needing
capital
and so
plan
forth,
next year
Yeah.
at $270,000,
Yeah, it might come down.
and a brush mower this year at $200,000.
You know what?
Brush
Or
mower, the one that we.
arm.
Yeah, they need another one?
Ours isn't in the best of shape.
Really?
Yeah.
Looks good.
Yeah, well,
Alright.
We've
can only
had,
hit so many rocks with
we've
them,
had some quality
and not intentionally, they
mechanics
just, it
over
just
the last
happens.
few years, so.
That have maintained those fleet vehicles
Yeah, yeah.
very, very well.
Yeah,
Hubbardston 2030.
Stop getting.
Sustainable budget alignment with revenue growth. Growth, enhanced services and infrastructure. long-term financial stability, and it is our hope to achieve a forward-thinking financial framework that supports community priorities while fostering sustainability, growth, and resilience. These objectives will make sure and ensure that the town will be financially in a good spot for years to come. Once again, I wanted to make sure that this year wasn't overtly negative because it was an old song and dance. I didn't see a actual purpose in coming out and telling you we were $2 million in the hole just because some numbers could be skewed one way or another. This is an optimistic yet realistic forecast, but anything could happen. Like, there are variables. Like, there's bad days and there are good days. We get massive grants, we take one step in the good direction. Tons of things break and we need to do fleet maintenance quickly, it's one step in the other.
Roll a dump truck by accident and set the rug on fire, you
Yeah.
know, good day.
So,
I didn't know about
how
that
we
until this
compare
morning.
to last year at this time? Cause we didn't have the numbers for this, we still don't have the numbers for school this
Yeah.
year, so. I mean, we don't know until we get a 12% bill from the school, or 13%.
As a starter.
Right, and you're figured it at what, 6?
Mathematically, in here, the 5-year average was 6.3.
6.3.
I do think
Well, it
that's
blends
gonna be low. I'm hoping, like I said, optimistic.
Yeah,
But
I'm just curious where we stand now compared to last year at this time.
we're
How
in
we
a
doing?
better spot than we were 1 year ago
Yeah.
by a little bit
I thought so.
because we did not make key investments. Like
Mean capital spending.
not capital spending, we made decently appropriate capital expenditures last year, but there were either level or cuts in 3 of our major service departments. Like, so whereas the numbers look better and morale is better because of things like the 48 Gardner Road project and different things that we were doing to step forward and do things that keep people interested and excited, we're still in that same trend of we're not properly investing. Like, when you look at what we should be properly investing over the years versus what revenue is going to come in, yes, there's still a structural deficit year over year over year. And we're going to be able to work on that, but it's not something you can solve overnight.
Nope. No, when
It's
it's been
gonna take-
neglected for 25
It's
years.
gonna take decades
Yeah.
to solve
Well,
that problem.
And that 6% has been a realistic figure for us for the last few years going back.
Yeah.
We don't get, that's not what we
Yeah, I
end
know.
up with.
You never
That's-
see
If only-
That's where we start saying, this is what we really can afford, and then
Yeah.
we end up with 8 or 9 that we have to
And
end up paying, so it's
To
frustrating.
offset that the school might be low, there are some things in here that I think are a little bit high. Like, I purposefully keep some of our liability lines higher than they should be, just because there's no way to tell. Like,
Yeah.
Worcester Regional just calls us and says, I swear, they just throw a dart and say, 9.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
Yay.
so overall, we are working in a positive direction. We are still a very rural, small town, working its way through the problems as they come. It could be better, but it sure could be worse. I will keep my eye on this, and we'll have a budget for you in about a month. If you want to look at a rough version with many, many variables and almost no factual data, stop by any time. But I will answer any of your questions, and I thank you once again for your ear and your time.
Thank you, good job.
All right,
No consent agenda.
any other comments? All right. So we'll move to, there is no consent agenda, so that you can just we'll skip. So, moving on to new business. And the first thing we'll take up
You
will
took the
be,
first one out of
the,
order.
B.
48.
the 48 Gardner Road, Amarillo and Sons.
That's the electrician, correct?
Mass
No.
DOT.
Oh,
Mass
this is
DOT.
Mass
So-
DOT, okay, so I was like,
Mass DOT through Amarillo, cause that's a deal that they have with their contractors.
Okay.
Their contractors rent Mass DOT space whenever
Got it.
they're working on certain projects. This is a very good thing to have happen to us. I thought Mass DOT was going to be out at the end of this year. They are interested in staying on another year. They aren't 100% sure they're gonna be there the whole year, but they do have a 3-month, they have to let us know 90 days ahead of time. It is quite literally the exact same contract, except for we are moving them, so we can go and put our temporary town hall in there, and Patricia will be billing them for their utilities instead of having them pay it, because we can't split it
Separate it.
from
Yeah.
what we're using, so we're gonna look into best practices and
Yeah.
figure it out from there. They know that they still have to hire their cleaning company and do all the things that they were doing before.
they're gonna be upstairs.
Yep, they're
Yeah,
gonna be
right
upstairs.
across the hall
So
from us.
is their rent included electricity?
No,
No, they pay it.
no, they
We're gonna
pay
bill
it.
them.
We're gonna bill that. I'm gonna create an invoice for them
How are
once
you
a
gonna
month.
do that?
So
Are they on a separate meter?
no, it's
Now they are.
now
But
they
when-
are,
But when they're upstairs, they won't be.
cause it's all one meter, and it looks like they've done it before, cause those were 2 different offices. So I just have to figure out the best practice, and reach out to some other people who have done this. I know there's a couple other communities that
Listen,
have.
you can get an electrician to put a meter on any line you want.
So apparently they tried to do that once
Not
upon a
a
time.
regular meter, it's just a digital meter. It tells you what they've used for the month. You figure out how much it costs you, you bill them.
Yeah,
That's likely where best practice is going
to go.
Yeah.
There's a couple other communities that have similar kind of, they rent out their extra space or whatever, and I know that they do something, so I was
Just-
gonna
just
reach out
put a
to
thing,
them to
it's at
see
the
what
panel.
they
It's not a
do.
outside meter.
Anything else on that? Okay, we could have a motion then to authorize.
They're a good tenant, and we're very fortunate.
Is this the
Yeah.
lease that came from before?
Yeah, with minor changes, just
Yeah.
changing the name and a couple of different things.
I mean, they're
Okay.
not there more than they're there, I'll tell you that.
Could I have a motion then to authorize the town administrator to enter into a lease agreement with Amarillo and Sons for 48 Gardner Road as presented?
So moved.
Motion made, is there a second? And second. Any further questions or discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye, yes.
Opposed, abstained, motion carried. So we moved item 7,
I'm ready.
the annual license approvals. Okay,
It's your time to shine, kid.
Okay, sounds good. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Okay, so, this was my first year, so bear with me doing licensure. Didn't exactly have a roadmap on how to do this, so reached out to a couple of different, communities. Tamika in Rutland was super, super helpful. So you guys have your list in front of you, per, business and the type of licenses that they, require each year. Tonight, gonna have you vote, the couple of them are contingency in getting me their paperwork, like Jan's Auto, they're in Iceland right now. So they haven't been able to get their paperwork
Every
to
year.
me.
Yeah.
Ladybug Farm is just waiting on some, inspections, just because the fire department has been exceedingly busy. The only other one that I haven't heard from is R&J Auto Sales. I've left 2 messages, and I mailed them their paperwork. I haven't heard anything back. I followed up again today. I'm hoping to hear back if
Do
push
you have
comes.
a, area where they're located?
They're on 68,
They're on 68,
It's the other side from Jan's, right?
a little further down.
is it the one with the hillbilly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see him there, so, when I come.
To my knowledge, that's who this is.
Yeah, when
That's the
I
only other
drive
hill.
by and I see him, I might stop and just introduce
Yeah.
myself and give him my
Oh,
card.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not always there, so
No.
I'm not sure if he,
Yeah.
but those are the only ones that need on contingency. Everyone else has paid, gotten me everything, have all the appropriate signatures, and done everything that they need to do to get their license on the conclusion of this meeting. And I think, going forward next year, I'm hoping with the new e-permitting that it'll just send them an email 3 months in advance saying, it's time to renew. They can do it online, I'll get a notification saying their application's complete, and I can just hand it over to you guys once it's done.
So all you need from us is to approve it, cause we've signed them already.
Yep, we've signed them already,
I
so.
do ask that there's a date in the contingency, like, it doesn't have to be December 31st, that's what I recommend, cause it's when their current license
Mhm.
expires.
Yeah.
And at that point, we would need to let them know, like, hey, you're operating without a license.
You're all done.
So we'll just stick with that date that's on there.
December
Okay.
31st, okay?
Okay, so, the motion would be, if I could have the motion to approve the 2025 annual license renewals as presented, contingent upon receipt of proper paperwork for John's Auto, AAA Auto, Ladybug Farm, and Maddie's Ice Cream by December 31, 2024.
What about the R&J?
It's instead of for John's Auto, can we just do R and J? Jan's Auto is AAA Auto.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all the same,
R&J,
okay?
yeah.
R and J instead of John's
Auto.
Jan's Auto, it's R and J
Mhm.
Auto.
So we'll
So I'll
amend
fix
that.
that.
Then for the paperwork for AAA Auto, right, Ladybug Farm,
and
Maddie's
Maddie's
Ice Cream, and
And R and J Auto.
R&J Auto, by December 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Motion's made, and, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay,
yeah.
discussion,
Yes.
go ahead.
Of course. So, on the 31st, they don't renew their business, technically they gotta close their doors?
Yep,
Okay.
they'll get a
Now, is the
cease and
code
desist.
enforcement officer notified by the 31st?
Yes,
Yes,
Duffy would be.
Duffy would be notified way in advance on the 31st. He would be going with a letter and,
Oh,
a
so he'd have to
personal-
deliver them a letter,
I think I can send the letter,
certified? Okay,
and then
that's all I
Duffy
need to know.
shows up.
Certain licenses are more serious than others.
correct.
Like, your
Liquor-
liquor license, yes,
Yeah.
you don't have a license, you're
Yeah.
shut down. The
Yeah.
common vic, maybe
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
amusement, maybe not.
Yeah, there's a leeway there, I understand that.
Well, like Maddie's Ice Cream, first of all, she's not on this list, but,
I did notice that she's not on
but yeah, she,
this list.
I know her truck shit the bed
Yeah, it had some
basically, and
problems.
so she might not even get one till spring, when she,
I called her and she
Yeah.
said that the reason why she hasn't sent it in is she's unsure at this time due to the
Yeah.
expense
Yeah,
that was
she needs a
brought to
vehicle.
her
Yeah.
about fixing her truck. I think it was more than she was.
More than it's worth.
It shut her season down.
It shut
Oh,
her
yeah.
season down early, so
Yep.
she said if she could wait, she will, but she
Yeah.
would get back to me before December.
Yep.
All right. Anything else, excuse me, anything else on that?
And there's no harm in.
Okay, the motion,
especially
Yeah.
ice cream.
motion has been made and second, seeing no more discussion, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes, opposed, abstained, motion carried. Moving to, old business. Item 8, public meeting policy. Nate?
Thank you. As we've spoken about before, this is just outlining some of our practices for public meetings. This does have the support of the town clerk. It follows state guidance and was put together with, after reviewing 10 or 12 other public meeting policies, this will unfortunately have to be changed relatively soon because we're going to be implementing the new website, and it will change some of the ways board members are to do their submittals of minutes and agendas, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, it is believed by myself and Melody that this is comprehensive and outlines a majority of the public meeting process for a chair or a member of a board to review ahead of either volunteering or just to get a fresher-upper and freshening up and to
Refresher.
a refresher, yeah. And it adds some comment on hybrid meeting.
Any comments on the, that part of it? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mike.
Oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I note that under number 5, Conduct A, and under number 6, Audiovisual, both paragraphs A of 5 and 6 are at the two sentences there are virtually the same, and I think they can be, one can be eliminated or combined.
I'll look into that. This has been old business for about 2.5 months now,
Yeah.
so.
One says the chair must ensure that all necessary technology, the other one says audio-visual equipment instead of technology. The other one says tested, the other one says functional, and one says begins, and the other one says starts. So the intent looks to be the same, just a few different words. The other one is number 11 and number 7. Number 7's record keeping. Number 11 is standardized meeting documentation. It looks like number 11,
It's in the packet.
number 11 could be combined with number 7, because
Peter,
They're
on your computer, just get the public.
virtually the
The
same.
whole thing is there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Mike, yeah.
Yeah, I'm lost.
It's fine. It-
I'm good, I don't need
Public
to
meeting
see it.
policy, that's the next
Yeah, it's the
item that
actual
we're up.
policy.
And he was quoting
Yeah, I have
from
no
the various
problem
paragraphs.
Sectional,
Okay, this one, that sentence and that sentence are virtually the same. And then
It's an important
This-
sentence.
here,
Reiterating.
number 7
Drive it at
are
home.
the same record keeping, standardized documentation.
Okay, do you mind if I keep these?
Nope.
Thank you.
Once you
Too
get past,
much-
once you get past the lease thing, then it's,
Yeah.
the next thing up is
Too much
public.
copying and pasting going on, that's
There it
all.
is, that's the beginning of it, I think, right there. That's the
Like
letter.
you look at stuff so many times over
And
and I'll
then-
just.
Oh, yeah.
Then the first thing is public meeting policy and guidance, those are the
So many
items Mike was quoting
Yeah.
by numbers,
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay?
It's, yeah, no, and that's the whole thing.
Okay, any further questions on the public meeting? Okay, could we have a motion to adopt public meeting policy as presented
Could we
and
do it
slash
as
amended?
amended?
Yeah.
As amended.
We're not gonna do it as presented.
So moved.
I'll make Mike's changes
Okay,
and
okay, a motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
And second, any discussion?
What's the motion again?
To adopt the public meeting policy as presented slash amended.
as amended.
And it's been made and seconded, is there any comments or not?
As amended.
Yes.
Yes.
As amended,
Yes.
not
And
as
Patricia
presented.
has Mike's notes on,
Yep.
Yeah, I'll make those edits
on the reiterations.
tomorrow. I'll do it in red so you can see.
Yeah, I can log on.
Okay, so, alright, seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, abstained, motion passed. Moving to item B, annual policy review. Nate?
Thinking we put this off just for the good of it. We've waited long enough.
Yes.
Like, no, so what this is some catch up on our annual policy review, which at our next meeting, I'll bring probably 2 more pieces of policy that you will have hopefully by the end of this week. I have to look at the schedule, but this is some backlog that we got stuck in in process during speaking about town meeting, just different executive sessions over the past few months. They are minor revisions, things like select min to select board.
I have one I wanted to get in also on that, but
Yep.
I can wait on that one too.
I'm aware of town manger and will change,
Not just that
change
one.
that. That was actually, it's gonna be a sad day to see it end because that was legally the policy since 2020, so.
So,
He wasn't a manager, he was a major.
we're tabling it, or will
No, I was
next,
joking,
the next meeting?
No, this one.
Oh, I
That was,
thought you
I was
wanted to
being-
skip it.
He has a flair for the dramatic.
I was
and
being
this-
facetious.
As he
Okay,
told me today, hey, can you let us back in?
all right,
I don't know
then,
what happened.
floor is yours.
Broke it.
Yeah, it's fine.
The internet's been going in and out today.
Buffering.
I feel like I'm watching the fight again.
Yeah. That's about how riveting that was.
Alright, Jeff, you said you had a comment, and then I know Mike had his hand raised
Well,
as well.
when you get to it, on conflict of interest, something I'd like to add into the actual.
Yep, does anyone have any
The
comments
wording.
on equal employment? Does anyone have any comments on drug and alcohol-free workplace? Does anyone have any comments on the conflict of interest policy?
Yes, I do.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add some verbiage to it based on, Peter and I, we attended a little while back with the K&P presentation on the open meeting and conflict of interest. And one of the sections here, like on D, let me find D. Here we go, item D. It's item D, as it's written, right now, it says, take any type of official action which will affect the financial interests of your immediate family or your spouse's immediate family. At the presentation of K&P, when they were relating to this very point, and they used the term immediate family, then they also expanded to explain what immediate family actually takes in. And it hit me at the time that I hadn't realized how broad it was, and thinking in terms of a new employee that coming in, et cetera, and if they look at this at all, or if they are, they could have the question in their minds, because what K&P has, and I would like to add it to ours, under immediate family, it says the employee's spouse, each of the employees and spouse's parents, children, brothers, and sisters. I think we should include that into our own policy for, if nothing else, information purposes for new employees. So that's one thing I would like to ask to get into it, based on those reasons, so.
So basically a little definition.
Yeah.
All I ask if we were to do that is that we remember that we did that, because that language is going to come up a lot, because these are personnel policies, so.
Right, and you change our policy, they're gonna change your union contracts.
Is there somewhere?
How are we changing anything in the
Mass
contract?
there?
That's what immediate family
Like in
means.
the Mass State Law,
I just
or you
want
could quote
it
the
listed.
Mass
Yeah.
What is it
Law,
listed now?
and then it'll evolve
It just says
with the
immediate
Mass
family,
State
it doesn't
Law.
give you
I could look
the
into
explanation.
that.
All
You
I want.
you have
put-
to, yeah,
Mass
you have to
General
know,
Law
you have to
defines
list them
immediate
by
family as-
brother.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what I just
Sister,
read,
yeah.
yeah,
That way, if
that's
that-
what I would like,
that
immediate
definition
family,
ever
if even
changes,
parentheses,
then
blah,
it
blah, 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 blah.
Cause the original ones used to be,
They're off on a tangent.
I'm gonna read them off. Mother, father, actually it's mother, father, sister, brother, grandmother, grandfather. Those are your original ones back in
And
the
now,
day.
according to the meeting
You
we
know,
went to with
15 years
K&P,
ago, yeah.
it's adds in brothers, sisters, children,
Brothers,
Yeah.
mother-in-law, father-in-law.
so.
So, our little suggestion that we were kinda putting out there, while you guys were, is there a spot somewhere that we can add like the Mass state law definition applies to this, so that way, as it changes, you don't have to keep screwing with this,
So this-
or everything else.
This
I don't think it's
particular
state law.
instance is
Well, the
solved
definition.
already.
This one,
Under MGL chapter 268A, the conflicts of interest law, immediate family is defined in that law, which our law is based upon as the employee and his spouse and their parents, children, brothers and sisters. So we can change the one here, but
Then we'd
the
have to go-
parent law, the umbrella law
which is what
already
KP gave
would-
us,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that is what the definition of that word,
Mhm.
of that sentence or fragment of sentence means.
So, are you saying then we can incorporate it into
You
that?
can,
or-
but you don't have to. So it's basically, it's
you can always
semantics,
put a notation saying see state
Yeah.
definition.
which is everything,
Mhm.
because almost all of our,
Except for cousins.
Well, cause the only reason, if you put something very specific, and then the state law changes, and changes their definition, then our definition doesn't match
You want it to evolve
with the state.
with the state, and that's why a lot of general bylaws quote per Mass state law, blah, 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 cause as soon as the Mass state law updates, then your bylaw automatically updates, so you don't
So
have
it
to go
refers
before the
to an
Attorney
MGL.
General again,
and
state town
this
meeting.
whole thing is based upon an MGL.
Yeah.
Like, this is basically a restatement of MGL 268A. And
You're gonna have to update it again soon from what
And
I've seen in
should
the
we,
world, so.
if we had a in-house legal department and more time, a best practice would be to hyperlink the MGL definitions to
Yeah, right
this.
there,
But
but-
we do not have
That kind of.
that kind of
yeah,
time or,
technology and everything else to.
You could just add in there CMGL.
Yeah.
If anything, I would say add,
Mhm.
add in the CMGL for the definition.
268A.
Yeah, because my whole point was from an informational point of view
Yeah.
to a new person coming on, that they're gonna be seeing our stuff, not the state,
Mm-hmm.
and
I don't wanna work there.
so, you know, some kind of a reference for, to the, that there is more on this immediate family, and I think that would probably,
And that way we're covered for the long
you know,
haul.
for the Mass General, just, could we get that put in then with the MGL, yeah? Okay, well, that's actually up to the board too, this was something I was asking, so,
I'm fine with that, as long as it's, yeah, I would do, like I said, stick with the Mass state law, so that way when it evolves, we don't have to screw with it again, and worry about
Do we do it
fixing
in any other policies?
almost everything. Like, in
We were first.
reality, almost all of our policies that have any teeth are grounded in Massachusetts general law.
I understand that, but do we note that in any of our town policies as written here?
I've yet to really explore that, but it doesn't stand out to me. It like,
don't see it.
at the end of the day, you would have to do it every couple of sentences
Right.
if we
Yeah.
were going to be.
So let's not open that can of worms, I suggest we leave it just like it is. And if the question arises, we refer to Mass State General Law definition of.
But at the very beginning, it does outline that the entirety of the policy is under the umbrella of MGL 268.
So then you don't even need to say anything then,
You
right?
technically don't even need the policy,
Right,
but
right. And it's up to the department heads to disseminate that to their people, right?
not in this case.
No.
In the case, this is a conflict of interest law.
Oh,
Like,
that's
it-
where we're at? Going forward from that one.
So when we- yeah, we take those.
My
little
concern is
things
that
out.
with all these policies we have, if we start doing that, we're gonna have to do it in every policy. And it's really not necessary if these policies are under the umbrella of the Mass State General Law. So why start doing it in this one particular policy, when if a person has a question, we can
Yeah.
explain to them, this is rooted in Mass General Law. If you don't understand the definition of immediate family, go to Mass General Law, section yada, yada, yada. That's what the immediate family is.
And there can be certain circumstances, not necessarily with the conflict of interest law, but with other laws where, with other policies where a uncle is their dad and it's a different situation,
Right.
that we want it to be gray.
And with everything else that's going on, it's gonna change again here anyways.
So
Soon.
this is not necessarily the best example of defining it because it's conflict of interest and it's it's overtly negative what you would be doing here. This is referring to you favoring a family member, but if it would be a different situation if it was the passing of an immediate.
So, this is in the conflict of interest policy?
Yes, yeah.
Bereavement leave?
No.
What we're discussing.
Oh, alright.
Because
Right.
we're touching
bereavement.
upon similar things to bereavement leave because of the definition immediate family.
Oh,
But
okay.
what this is
Alright.
doing
I
is
wonder why I'm
it's saying
lost.
don't give contracts to your brother, or but
Oh, right,
because,
right.
like,
Like they have in the past?
yeah.
Yeah.
But the word immediate family, if we were to define, that speaks to kind of a positive nature. When it comes to a negative conflict of interest point, I think it should be as broad as possible. I don't want people giving conflict of interest or unethical behavior to their second cousin. But I get where the chair was coming from with defining it in certain aspects. But I also agree with Chris that we would be putting it every 2 or 3 lines
Yeah.
if we started.
Just paste it on everything.
I guess I should
Copy
have gone in the
paste, copy
bathroom.
paste, copy paste.
You what?
I went in the bathroom, I missed a little bit there, that's all, I came back in the middle of it.
Mike, you had your hand raised at one point.
I don't think it was on one of these issues.
Okay.
I think the chair already acknowledged me for
Yeah.
the one I had, thank you.
So where are we at?
Anti-fraud?
Well,
Yeah, I know. I thought I'm talking to the rest of these guys.
We can hold
I'll def-
conflict if you want.
No, I'll defer to the board at this point.
Peter, where are you at? Where do you think?
What are you talking about?
Do you think we should put something in there, or do
I'm
you
still trying
think?
to find out where it is,
Oh,
yeah,
for
I'm
the
just,
love of God.
I'm way behind the 8 ball, yeah.
What was it,
Section
D?
8.
It's on page 1.
Well, I personally don't think it should be updated if it doesn't need to be updated. I don't know. I mean,
Jeff's just worried that people won't understand the broadness.
well, then they can ask somebody, though, right?
I think if this was a situation where the employer, the town, stood to lose by someone taking a large number of benefits because of, oh, this is my immediate family, then you define it or you point to open meeting law. In this case, I don't know if it provides any additional benefit.
Right.
Okay, so I'll withdraw it then.
Alright,
Okay, did you already ask about anything about the anti-fraud, or are we done?
Any fraud?
Anything on that?
Do we fix major?
Fix major.
Okay.
we'll fix
Yeah,
major.
other than that, yeah.
Okay.
You won't be a major, I'll be a manager.
Okay,
We should probably appropriately refer to the positions as they are labeled in the charter. But in the name of not changing things just to change things,
Well, it's no different than going from selectmen to select board,
Yeah.
it'd be the same thing,
Yeah.
just changing what is
major
actual.
to administrator.
Yes,
Found it.
found
Okay.
major?
alright, if there are no other comments regards to the, item B1, A, B, C, D, then could I have a motion to approve the revised equal employment opportunity, drug and alcohol-free workplace, conflict of interest, and anti-fraud policies as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And second, any further
Question,
questions or
there's-
discussions? Go
There's
ahead.
been no changes on those 4 policies that we
We
just
didn't
talked
make it.
about?
Other than the
Other
major,
than-
technical,
Technical
That's a-
spelling,
that's a typo.
selectmen to select board,
Yeah.
chair
Mhm.
to,
Chairman to chair.
Well, if there's gonna be changes, we gotta vote on them as amended then.
Presented and amended.
yes, it's as amended.
yes, these are as
Mhm.
amended.
As amended, yep.
Well, that's not the motion, that was just verbalized.
I'll read it again.
Please.
Move to approve the revised Equal Employment Opportunity Drug and Alcohol-Free Workplace Conflict of Interest and Anti-Fraud Policies as, you don't want presented,
No.
mentioned at all, and
Just
then.
amended.
Just amended.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Opposed?
Yes.
Abstained? Okay.
Just so you guys are aware, so you don't think we're not updating the website. With everything that's been going on, these, I'm gonna do like a number of other communities do because it's easier having them live in a drive. So when you go there, you'll be able to open our policies and see the most updated version of each policy as they are living instead of having 40 hyperlinks. So if anyone were to say, oh, it's an old version of this, it's not. You just have to go to the bottom of the page.
Sure.
Okay,
If you say so.
alright, moving to the TA report.
I have a certificate.
Yay. You have a trophy in there too?
We do, we have a Purple Heart.
Oh, nice.
I took my riveting course on municipal HR
Yay.
and got a certificate.
Fancy.
I
It's on it's by the coffee maker.
We just need a gold star too. We got
I
like trophies and
I couldn't
stickers, no?
can't say enough good things about the work Patricia did with the Purple Heart ceremony. It was awesome, and it is very deserving of the honor that we honored that day. She took something that was completely out of the scope of her job and ran with it and did a marvelous job. So thank you to Patricia for putting together
Great job.
that event a few weeks
Thank you.
ago.
It was really well done.
And she's good at moving furniture.
A lot
I'm
of
great at moving furniture.
A lot of people spoke to me afterwards too. They thought it was really nice.
And due to the wind, no one will ever see it again. Like,
It's still there.
yeah, no.
I checked it yesterday.
There you go.
Oh, no,
Today.
not the flag, the video.
Oh,
They couldn't get the audio to
Ah.
work, so they never posted the video because the wind was whipping in the background against the mic.
I'm glad my kid took 400 pictures then.
Thank you so much for having them take pictures.
Yeah.
It was greatly.
I edited them
Appreciate it.
because it was like literally 400 pictures. I was like, oh, what? She's just like,
Anything else, Nate?
In addition to that, Mr. William Shea has donated a Purple Heart to be displayed with the Purple Heart declaration in a shadow box type deal that
Nice.
Patricia's gonna make.
nice.
Like,
Very nice.
Jack of all trades.
Thank you to Bill. Thank
And
you
where
to
is
Bill
it?
Shea, yep.
She's gonna make it.
I'm gonna make
haven't made
it.
it
Where will it be?
It's
placed
gonna
after it's
be,
made?
well, it's gonna be on the wall here for now, and then when we
Until
move
it-
into the town office, I'm gonna put all of our proclamations and certificates and accolades from like the state senate and stuff, cause we do have a few of those in storage, and really show off, Hubbardston in a beautiful gallery wall of all of the different things that we've done over the years.
So, one question,
Yes,
those Purple Heart town signs, are they already up?
they're up.
Is there one at each end to the town?
There should be one at each end, but Katie Stoddard took down one of them.
Oh, that was one of them?
Yeah.
Well, that's why you have insurance.
Yeah. It
But
was a rough day.
Travis and them, I got them the signs and they just started putting them up in
Excellent.
between,
Thank you. That was awesome.
the things they
Now
do.
tell me more about this. Who's the recipient? What is it for the town, for an individual,
So the
or
town
what?
became a Purple Heart town because we have living recipients of the Purple Heart as well as people who have passed on. So I did the research and made sure I got a full registry. I mean, the registry is as complete as we know, cause it's not something that records weren't kept very well during World War II and Vietnam.
She read off the names.
I
of
read off the names
individuals.
of the individuals,
for
but
all
Sue
wars.
Bragg's husband, Richard, and Anthony LaBelle are both recipients of the Purple Heart who live here in Hubbardston, and they attended the ceremony as well,
The
so,
ceremony was last Saturday.
last
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yep.
And Peter Durant.
Nice, and this
the
is gonna be
Senate
something you're gonna put together, and you're gonna put a plaque with all their names on
Yep.
it and display the Purple Heart?
And the
Very nice.
proclamation that announces that the town of Hubbardston is a Purple Heart, so.
Very nice.
So,
Good work.
One question I have about that, not to extend the meeting, but now that we're a Purple Heart town, are we part of the Purple Heart Trail?
We will be listed on the Purple Heart
Okay,
Trail. I just
thank
have
you.
to see what goes into that, but I think because we've already sent in some paperwork, I think we've already been added.
Okay, alright, thank you. And that's countrywide.
That's countrywide, yes.
Okay,
There's a
thank you.
national registry where you can see all the towns.
Excellent.
The Public Safety Building Committee will be meeting with the design company Derek Rubinoff Architects on the 26th. I am quite thrilled that we have a
Somebody.
that
Yay.
in addition, I know we have one last thing from the DPW, and this meeting has been longer than I thought it was going to be. I have to stop saying meetings are gonna be short,
Yeah, no,
but
you're a big liar.
you know, in the spirit of appreciation, I think it would go unnoted if we did not show appreciation to you guys as a select board. A lot of the morale in both the town hall and the volunteers are set by the actions of the select board, and it has been a very positive year, all working together. That is shown in the amount of people that are showing up, the additional volunteers that we have getting involved. So thank you all for really going above and beyond and ensuring that your commitment to your town is always a top priority. I think it shows in many of the things that you do and the people that get involved.
We'll see how that goes tomorrow night.
Thank you, and I thank
Oh
the
yeah,
board
and
also.
special town meeting tomorrow night.
Yes, that's tough.
No childcare.
No childcare.
Miss Tricia is going to, exercise her democratic
What
right
time
to
is the
attend a
meeting?
town meeting.
Folks,
7 p.m.
we're getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
here, okay? Was that the extra thing that you wanted to add in?
Nope.
Nope,
Oh,
I have
okay.
it, I'm so sorry.
So-
Matters not anticipated by chair, wage authorization for a new DPW, laborer, his name is Tim, his last name, has many vowels and consonants, so, I don't wanna butcher it on the public record, but I'm gonna try. It's Ostikalanis? Ostikalanis? I'm not.
Spell it.
Ostikalanis?
Spell it.
Os.
I can't read it, but
Yeah,
let me see.
AUKSTIKALNIS.
Was that Polish?
Linus, yeah.
Polish?
Ostikalinas, yeah.
For 2236, he's already started.
Are we finally full on the DPW?
No, gosh, no. God, no.
Boy, who'd we lose now?
I don't know.
We've been down two.
Well,
We're down to, one more.
One more.
One more.
Okay.
And we have Brian,
And we have,
So what,
the firefighter,
oh, okay,
that comes
yes.
in
No,
and
I
does-
know, yes, I know who that
you
is.
need a motion and.
I need a motion to approve the wage authorization for, DPW laborer Tim Ostalanis
Ostikalinas.
for 2236 an hour.
So moved.
And there's no, waiting time on this subject. Okay, motion is made, is there, second? We're just okaying the
Second.
person, okay?
Higher, yeah.
Alright, no discussion?
Yes, I have discussion. This isn't in my
No.
packet.
No, this
That's why
was
it's being
last
brought up
minute.
right now.
It's matters not,
Something not anticipated by the chair.
Travis brought it in
So-
at the end of the day. It would have been on your
Oh.
packet, but I was out last week, so it never made it onto the agenda. I apologize.
Okay. Alright,
I started coughing.
Yeah, I know.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passed. Okay, public press?
I have matters not reasonably
Hold on.
anticipated by the chair.
Oh, you have something?
We
Yes.
also have a public too.
So we just mentioned staffing. Where else, what other departments are short-staffed? The police
Police.
department?
Fire,
Yeah.
By how many?
one,
Police is one?
police one, fire one.
I thought police was in the academy.
He is, but we were down two. for
Oh, right,
several
okay.
years.
So everybody's still down one.
Yep.
But we're good in the offices, right?
Police,
Okay.
fire, and DPW is all down by one?
Down by
Mhm.
one.
Okay. How did we do with the new cruiser for chief? He had one in mind that we
I don't know, it's
approved?
tomorrow.
What's
That
tomorrow?
has to,
It's tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Town meeting.
That's gotta
Town
pass for
meeting.
tomorrow.
Yeah, well.
The town has to
yeah.
approve
Do
that.
you know if that one he was looking at is still available?
I believe so. He got the capital improvement committee asked about the, what do you call it, outfitting, and turns out that we're gonna be able to save $5,000 because it was outfitted for a Tahoe, and we don't need that much, so it'll be a $60,000 request when we get there. I can't change the
Still a lot
numbers
for a
on.
blaze, a little blazer.
I think it's kinda like having a wedding. The minute you say please,
Anything else?
Yeah, everything goes up.
Yeah, as I came in today, I noticed the clock on the school.
it's working today, right?
No,
No?
I'm the one that looks at us.
I thought it was working today.
I got here at 2:30.
It would have been before.
Wow, you were early.
Okay.
2:30. Stopped again? That motor's good for a year?
I'm frustrated.
This is why they, this
That's
is
why
why
they stopped fixing it.
Yes, like I said originally, this is why they stopped
It
fixing it.
can't be made in
because
Germany.
We should write it off.
they don't hold up.
Can we remove the clock?
It's beautiful.
Can we get like a digital or
Yeah.
something, like seriously?
Okay, I think we can need to, that can be taken care of now that. All right,
Mr.
Mike, yes, go ahead.
You moved on to, public and press?
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road. I wanna apologize that I didn't follow the meeting rules earlier because I didn't, say my name and where I lived. So we've corrected that now for the record. And thank you for acknowledging the, volunteers earlier today. Fortunately, I couldn't make that, but, thank you, Tricia, for passing this on.
Yeah.
It'll be cherished. It's a nice little town emblem. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, could we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Mike, I think you said
We
your
don't have to
name, but
meet
you didn't say
tomorrow
your
night
address.
before,